Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stop for a moment and think about the walls that exist inside your mind. Not the walls around you right now. No, the invisible ones you've been carrying for years. The ones whispering, you can't do that. The ones screaming, you're not good enough, you don't have what it takes, you're not ready. Those are not walls of reality. They are walls of belief, limiting beliefs. And if you don't kill them, they will kill your dreams. We've all been there. Maybe you wanted to start a business, but a voice inside said, people like you don't succeed at that. Maybe you wanted a relationship, but another voice said, you're not lovable. Maybe you wanted to transform your health, but the belief came in, it's too late, you'll never change. You see, it's not the world that stops us. It's not the economy. It's not your background. It's not your circumstances. It's not your education. The single greatest enemy you will ever face is the belief that you can't. Here's the truth. Every belief you hold is like a lens. You don't see life as it is. You see it as you are. And if your lens is dirty, if it's clouded with doubt, with fear, with insecurity, you will never see the opportunities that are right in front of you. You'll miss them. They'll pass you by. And then you'll look back and say, why did it happen for me? It didn't happen because your beliefs strangled it before it could even breathe. But here's the good news. Beliefs are not permanent. Beliefs are not concrete. Beliefs are nothing more than a thought you accepted as truth. And if a belief can be built, it can be broken. If it can be broken, it can be replaced. Think about it. Every breakthrough you've ever had in your life came when you finally said, enough is enough. I will not live this way anymore. I refuse to let this story control me. That moment, that fire, that decision, that's the death of a limiting belief. So I want to challenge you right now. Identify the belief that has been holding you back. Not 10, not 5, just one. What's the one belief that has robbed you of your energy, your passion, your courage? Write it down. Say it out loud. Call it by name. Because when you expose a lie, you strip it of its power. Now replace it. If the old belief said, I can't, the new belief must say, I will. If the old belief said, I don't deserve it, the new belief must say, I am worthy. If the old belief said, it's impossible, the new belief must roar, it's inevitable, and listen. This isn't about pretending. This isn't about tricking yourself. This is about rewiring your brain, shifting your focus, and choosing a new standard for your life. When you kill a limiting belief and replace it with a liberating one, your entire energy changes. Your physiology changes. The way you walk into a room changes. People feel it before you even say a word. The difference between people who live extraordinary lives and people who live in quiet frustration is not talent, not luck, not intelligence. It's belief. One group says, I can't. The other says, watch me. Which group will you be in? You were not born to play small. You were not put on this planet to tiptoe through life, hoping to arrive safely at death. You were designed to expand, to grow, to conquer, to love, to create, to break through. And that destiny will never unfold as long as you're chained to the lie of limitation. So today is the day, right here, right now. Kill the belief that's been killing you. Bury it, burn it, destroy it, and from its ashes, create a new belief so powerful, so undeniable, that it pulls you toward the life you've always imagined. Because once you kill limiting beliefs, you don't just change your mind, you change your life. Limiting beliefs are lies, not reality. When you stop and think about it, most of the things that hold you back in life are not actual walls. They are illusions you've accepted as fact. These beliefs sneak into your mind through experiences, failures, words spoken by others, and moments of fear. And over time, they build themselves into a narrative you begin to call truth. But here's the shocking part. What you call truth is often nothing more than a recycled thought, repeated often enough that you never questioned it. If you were told you weren't smart, you may have carried that into adulthood, and every time you faced a challenge, the lie replayed itself in your head. If you were told success isn't for people like you may have buried your dreams because the lie convinced you they were unreachable. If you were told love is not something you deserve, you may have sabotaged relationships before they even began. And in each case, it wasn't the situation that defined you, it was the belief you chose to carry from it. A belief is not carved in stone. It is not some immovable fact of life. A belief is simply a perception, a meaning you attach to an event. And once that meaning took root, it began to color how you saw yourself and the world around you. If you see yourself through the lens of limitation, every opportunity looks impossible. If you see yourself through the lens of failure, every setback feels permanent. If you see yourself through the lens of fear, every challenge feels like a threat. And yet, if you change that lens, the exact same situation could ignite a completely different future. Imagine two people losing their jobs. One says, "This means I'm worthless, I'll never succeed," and spirals into despair. The other says, "This means it's time for me to finally chase that business idea I've had for years," and begins a new chapter of freedom. The event was the same, but the belief was different. And because of that, the destiny that followed was different. The dangerous thing about limiting beliefs is how convincing they feel. They often come dressed as logic. They disguise themselves as reality. You think, "I can't afford this," when the truth is you haven't yet learned how to create more resources. You think, "I can't do that," when the truth is you haven't yet committed yourself to growth. You think, "I'm not good enough," when the truth is you're comparing yourself to someone else's highlight reel instead of your own potential. Limiting beliefs shrink you. They trick you into playing small. They keep you on the sidelines while life passes by. But remember this, every great leader, every innovator, every champion was once surrounded by people who said, "That's impossible." If they had accepted the lie, the world would have been robbed of their contribution. The difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is not the absence of fear or doubt. It is the refusal to let those doubts dictate the outcome. You may have been carrying certain beliefs for so long that they feel like part of your identity. Maybe you say, "That's just who I am." But who you are is not the sum of the lies you've accepted. Who you are is far greater, far stronger, far more capable. The moment you recognize that a belief is just a thought you agreed to, you open the door to freedom. If you agreed to it once, you can disagree with it now. If you believed it into existence, you can unbelieve it out of existence. And when you do, when you kill the belief that has been chaining you, you unleash a version of yourself that has been waiting in silence for years. Think about the beliefs you may have inherited. From parents, from teachers, from friends, from society. Maybe someone told you money is the root of all evil, and now you're afraid to chase financial success because deep down you associate it with greed. Maybe someone told you relationships always end in pain, and now you never open your heart fully because you're protecting yourself from the heartbreak you've been told is inevitable. Maybe someone told you that people from your background don't make it far, and now you've unconsciously set a ceiling on how high you allow yourself to climb. These are not truths. They are stories passed down, repeated often, and never challenged. The day you challenge them is the day you reclaim your power. What would your life look like if you no longer lived under these lies? Imagine yourself without the voice that says, "You can't." Imagine what decisions you would make if your default belief was, "I will." Imagine what goals you would chase if you believed with certainty that you are capable, deserving, and unstoppable. The only difference between the person you are now and the person you dream of being is the set of beliefs you operate from. Your actions are driven by your beliefs. Your habits are shaped by your beliefs. Your results are defined by your beliefs. Change the beliefs, and everything else changes. A lie only has power as long as it is unchallenged. Once you bring it into the light, once you say, "This is not truth. This is just a thought I accepted," you take away its strength. You strip it of its disguise. That moment is liberation. That moment is where transformation begins. Because when you kill a limiting belief, you don't just change how you think. You change how you live, how you move, how you approach every challenge. You stop waiting for permission. You stop asking if you're ready, and you start creating, building, acting from a place of certainty instead of fear. The lies of limitation will continue to whisper. They will continue to show up, but each time they do, you have a choice. You can bow to them and let them control your future, or you can rise up, confront them, and crush them before they crush you. The choice will always be yours, and the consequences of that choice will echo in every part of your life. Every belief can be broken and replaced. That simple truth has the power to transform everything about your life, because it means that no matter how long you've been carrying a certain story, no matter how deep the roots of that belief may feel, it is not permanent. Beliefs are not chains forged from steel. They are threads woven together by repetition, experience, and interpretation. And threads can be cut, threads can be untangled, threads can be rewoven into something stronger. Too often people live as if their beliefs are unchangeable, as if the way they see themselves today must be the way they will see themselves forever. But the truth is that every belief you have was learned, and if it was learned, it can be unlearned. If it was accepted, it can be rejected. If it was created, it can be recreated. Think about how beliefs are formed. A child fails a test and hears the words, "You're not smart." That moment becomes a story, and the story becomes a belief. Another person tries to start a business and it doesn't work out, and instead of seeing it as an event, they attach meaning to it. "I'm not meant for success." That meaning becomes a belief. Someone gets hurt in a relationship and they decide, "I can't trust people." that decision becomes a belief. None of these are truths carved in stone. They are interpretations, they are judgments, they are choices of meaning. And because they are choices, they can be changed. The failure on a test could have meant, I need to study differently, not, I'm stupid. The failed business could have meant, that strategy didn't work, not, I'll never succeed. The broken relationship could have meant, I need to heal and grow, not, I can't trust. The event itself is neutral. The belief is created by the meaning we attach to it. What happens when you realize this is that you suddenly take back power. You begin to see that you are not trapped by circumstances. You are trapped by the story you told yourself about those circumstances. And the story can change. You can look back at the same event that once created a limiting belief and decide to create an empowering one instead. The same failure that once convinced you to quit can become the reason you persevere. The same heartbreak that once convinced you to close your heart can become the reason you love deeper. The same rejection that once convinced you weren't enough can become the reason you rise higher. It all depends on the meaning you choose. Breaking a belief requires first recognizing it. Most of the time, limiting beliefs operate like background programs on a computer. You don't even notice they're running, but they're dictating the outcome of everything you do. They show up in your language, in the excuses you make, in the opportunities you don't pursue. Every time you say, I can't, I don't have what it takes, I'm not ready, that's a belief speaking. Every time you settle for less than you desire because you think you don't deserve more, that's a belief speaking. Every time you stop before you even start, that's a belief speaking. So the first step is awareness. Ask yourself, what beliefs are running my life? Where did they come from? Who told me this was true? Do I want to keep living by this story? Once you expose a belief, you weaken its grip. But exposure is not enough. You must break it and replace it. Breaking it means challenging it, questioning it, demanding proof. If the belief says, you're not smart, ask, according to who? What evidence proves that permanently? Haven't I learned and grown before? If the belief says, you can't succeed, ask, is that really true? Or did one setback convince me of that? Haven't others faced bigger setbacks and gone on to succeed? If the belief says, you're unworthy of love, ask, is that my truth or is that pain talking? Don't I deserve the same love and joy as anyone else? The moment you start questioning the belief, you start cracking its foundation. Lies cannot survive the light of scrutiny. They only thrive in silence, in unquestioned acceptance, but breaking a belief is only half the process. If you destroy an old belief without creating a new one, you leave a void. And nature hates a void. If you don't fill it, the old belief or another limiting one will creep back in. So once you break a belief, you must replace it with a new empowering one. If the old belief was, I'm not smart, the new belief becomes, I am a lifelong learner and I can figure anything out. If the old belief was, I can't succeed, the new belief becomes, every setback is a setup for my comeback. If the old belief was, I'm unworthy of love, the new belief becomes, I am worthy, I am enough, and I attract love by being authentic. Replacing a belief is like planting a seed. You water it with repetition. You nurture it with action. You protect it from the weeds of doubt. Over time, that seed grows into a tree that becomes stronger than the old one ever was. This process is not about ignoring reality. It's about creating a new reality, because reality is not fixed. It bends to the beliefs you bring into it. If you believe you can't, you won't even try, and that belief creates the reality of failure. If you believe you can, you'll find a way. And that belief creates the reality of success. Beliefs shape perception. Perception shapes decisions. Decisions shape outcomes. Change the belief, and you change the entire chain reaction of your life. It's also important to understand that breaking and replacing beliefs is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. Life will test you. Challenges will arise. Old patterns may resurface. But once you know the process, once you know that beliefs can be broken and replaced, you carry the power to rewrite your story again and again. You no longer have to fear setbacks because you know they don't define you. You no longer have to fear failure because you know it doesn't mean you're incapable. You no longer have to fear rejection because you know it doesn't mean you're unworthy. You are free because you know that the beliefs that once trapped you are nothing more than illusions that can be shattered and rebuilt. It will imagine living from this place. Imagine never being held hostage by the lies of limitation again. Imagine stepping into every challenge knowing that even if you fall, you can rewrite the meaning. Imagine creating new beliefs so powerful, so liberating, that they drive you to become the person you were always meant to be. That is what happens when you decide, once and for all, that every belief can be broken, and replace your breakthroughs start the moment you say enough is enough. Nothing in life changes until you reach that point where the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. You can read all the books, listen to all the advice, attend all the seminars, but until that deep internal decision is made, nothing shifts. Breakthroughs are not born from convenience. They are born from desperation, from hunger, from that moment when you look at your circumstances and you refuse to tolerate them for one more second. The world is full of people waiting for a perfect time to act, waiting for conditions to align, waiting for someone else to give them permission, and yet the people who change everything are the ones who get to that point where they say, I'm done waiting, I'm done settling, I will no longer live like this. That declaration is the spark that ignites transformation. Think about every major shift in your own life. Maybe you had a health scare and said, enough is enough. I'm not going to treat my body this way anymore. Maybe you were tired of struggling financially and finally said, enough is enough. I'm going to learn the skills, build the discipline, and change my situation. Maybe you lived for years in fear, insecurity, or doubt, and there came a day where you said, enough is enough. I will no longer let this story control me. That is when breakthroughs happen, not when you hope, not when you wish, but when you decide. Decision is the power. Decision is the dividing line between the life you have and the life you desire. And decision is born the moment you refuse to keep tolerating what has been holding you back. The reason this moment is so powerful is because it shifts your identity. Up until then, you may have identified with your excuses, with your pain, with your failures. You may have said, this is just who I am. This is how life is. But when you declare enough is enough, you break that identity and claim a new one. You move from victim to creator, from passive to active, from powerless to powerful. And identity drives behavior. The moment you change your identity, your actions naturally follow. Someone who says, I'm just not disciplined, will act accordingly. But the moment they say, enough is enough, I am disciplined, I will not live in this cycle anymore, everything changes. The declaration is not just words, it's a new standard for life. It is important to realize that pain is a gift when it drives you to this point. Comfort never creates breakthroughs. When you're comfortable, you coast. When you're comfortable, you tolerate things that don't serve you. When you're comfortable, you accept mediocrity. But when you reach the point where you are fed up, when the weight of limitation is unbearable, when the frustration of repeating the same patterns burns inside you, that is when you access a new level of power. That is when change becomes not just possible, but inevitable, because you've burned the bridges back to the old life. You've made it non-negotiable. You've turned a should into a must. That shift in urgency is the birth of transformation. Many people live their lives avoiding this moment. They numb themselves with distractions, with excuses, with stories, because they're afraid of facing the truth that they've been settling. But those who face it head on, those who dare to look at their reality and say, I will not accept this anymore, are the ones who rise. They understand that life doesn't change when you want it to, it changes when you demand it to. The demand must come from within. No one can make the decision for you. No mentor, no friend, no partner can want it enough for you. They can guide you, but they cannot cross the line for you. Only you can reach the point where you draw a line in the sand and step into a new version of yourself. The beauty of this truth is that you don't need years to make that decision. Breakthroughs don't require time. They require intensity. You can decide in a single moment that the old story ends and the new one begins. A smoker quits not because the calendar said so, but because they hit that moment of absolute decision. A person changes their career not because the timing was perfect, but because they said, I will not waste one more day living someone else's dream. A person transforms their relationship not because circumstances magically shifted, but because they said, enough is enough. I will not bring this version of myself into this relationship anymore. That decision is instant, and the ripple effects last a lifetime. When you declare enough is enough, you unlock courage you didn't even know you had. Fear loses its grip because the pain of staying the same outweighs the fear of change. Doubt shrinks because the certainty of your decision becomes stronger than the uncertainty of the future. Resistance collapses because the energy of commitment bulldozes through it. Suddenly you find yourself doing things you used to avoid, taking risks you used to fear, building habits you used to resist, because the decision has already been made. You no longer negotiate with yourself. You no longer debate. You no longer stall. You move forward because there is no going back. And here's the key. Breakthroughs are not reserved for special people. They are not reserved for the lucky, the talented, the wealthy. They are available to anyone willing to reach that point of truth, that point of no return, that point where you demand more of yourself and of life. The raw materials for your breakthrough are already inside you. Strength, courage, resilience, creativity. They are waiting behind the wall of indecision. And the moment you break through that wall with a declaration of enough is enough, they flood into your life. When you look back at history, every movement, every revolution, every transformation began with this declaration. An individual or a group reached a point where they said, we will not tolerate this anymore. That is the birthplace of progress. That is the spark that changes everything. And just like it has shaped history, it can shape your personal destiny. Your life story will be defined not by the challenges you faced, but by the moments you decided to rise above them. Those moments will become the turning points you look back on and say, that was the day everything shifted. This is the power you hold right now. You don't need permission. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need to wait. All you need is that declaration, that fire, that decision where you finally say enough is enough, replacing I can't with I will. Transforms your entire life. The words you speak to yourself are not just harmless thoughts. They are commands to your brain, instructions to your body, codes that shape your reality. Every time you say, I can't, you are programming yourself to stop, to retreat, to shrink, to quit before you even begin. You are telling your mind to shut down creativity, to block solutions, to blind you to opportunities. But the moment you shift those two words, the moment you replace I can't with I will, everything changes. Suddenly your mind begins searching for ways, your body aligns with your determination, and your energy shifts from limitation to possibility. The words you use create the world you live in, and few words are as destructive as I can't. Think about how many times I can't has robbed you of progress. How many times have you said, I can't lose weight? And so you never committed fully to the process. How many times have you said, I can't start a business? And so you never even tried. How many times have you said, I can't forgive? And so you carried resentment that poisoned you for years. Each I can't was a locked door you placed in your own path, a barrier you built with your own hands. And the tragic part is that most of those doors were illusions. You could have walked through them at any moment if you had chosen to replace the language of defeat with the language of determination. I will has the power to unlock doors you thought were sealed shut. I will is a declaration, a decision, a command. It does not ask permission. It does not wait for perfect conditions. It does not negotiate with fear. I will says this is happening no matter what, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many times I fall. That certainly reshapes your psychology. Instead of seeing obstacles as reasons to stop, you see them as challenges to overcome. Instead of interpreting failure as the end, you see it as feedback. Instead of giving up at the first sign of difficulty, you push through because I will has already decided the outcome in your mind. When you say I can't, you close your imagination. When you say I will, you open it. The mind begins to search for strategies, for resources, for opportunities. Suddenly you start noticing things you never saw before because your brain is wired to find what you focus on. If you focus on I can't, your brain will find evidence to prove you right. It will gather every past failure, every excuse, every fear, and it will hand them to you as proof. But if you focus on I will, your brain will gather evidence for that too. It will remind you of the times you succeeded. It will push you to notice new possibilities. It will fuel your resourcefulness. This is not positive thinking. This is neuroscience. The words you use direct your focus, and your focus directs your reality. Consider the difference between a person who says, I can't run a marathon, and a person who says, I will run a marathon. The first person shuts down before even lacing up their shoes. They never begin because their belief has already defeated them. The second person may not know how yet, but I will pushes them to start training, to study nutrition, to build endurance, to surround themselves with support. Over time, the declaration becomes reality. What separated them was not talent or resources, but two tiny words. One chained them, the other freed them. The same principle applies to every area of life. In relationships, I can't trust again. Keeps your heart locked. While I will open my heart allows love to enter. In business, I can't compete keeps you small, while I will find a way opens paths to innovation. In personal growth, I can't change guarantees stagnation. While I will change ensures progress. These shifts may sound simple, but their impact is profound because your words are not just reflections of your beliefs, they are reinforcers of them. Every time you say, I can't, you strengthen the chains. Every time you say, I will, you sharpen the sword that cuts them. It's important to understand that I will does not mean everything will be easy. Life will still test you. Obstacles will still appear. But the difference is that I will equips you with resilience. Instead of retreating at the first sign of struggle, you lean in. Instead of being surprised by challenges, you expect them and keep moving. I can is fragile. It collapses under pressure. I will is unbreakable. It grows stronger with resistance. That's why some people thrive under pressure while others fold. The difference is not what they face, but the language they choose to confront it with. The transformation from I can't to I will is also a shift in identity. I can't is passive. It makes you a victim of circumstance. I will is active. It makes you a creator of destiny. When you say I can't, you are outsourcing your power to fear, to doubt, to external conditions. When you say I will, you take that power back. You declare that no matter what happens around you, you control how you show up, how you respond, how you persist. That shift in identity is life-changing because your behavior always aligns with who you believe yourself to be. If you believe you are someone who can't, you act small. If you believe you are someone who will, you act bold. There will be moments when the old language tries to creep back in, when fear whispers, I can't, in the back of your mind. That is when you must consciously choose to replace it. Catch yourself, interrupt the pattern, and declare, I will. Say it out loud if you have to. Repeat it until your mind accepts it. Reinforce it with action, because every step you take in alignment with I will makes the belief stronger over time. I will becomes your default language, and when that happens, your entire life takes on a new trajectory. The power of I will is not just in the words themselves, but in the energy they unleash. They create momentum, they create commitment, they create certainty. When you operate from I will, people around you feel it. They are drawn to your conviction, they believe in your vision. They are inspired by your determination. Opportunities open because people trust those who are decisive and committed. Doors that were once closed begin to swing open because you have the courage to knock with authority. The external world begins to reflect the internal shift you've made. Replacing I can't with I will is not about denial. It's about choosing a different reality. It's about refusing to live chained to limitations that were never truly real. It's about stepping into the full power of your potential and claiming what has always been available to you. Every time you say, I will, you carve a new path forward. Every time you say, I will, you rise a little higher. Every time you say, I will, you transform not just your words, but your life. Killing limiting beliefs unlocks your true potential and destiny. The truth is that every human being is born with an extraordinary capacity to grow, to adapt, to create, to achieve. But most people never touch even a fraction of that potential because they are imprisoned by beliefs that keep them small. These beliefs act like invisible chains, restricting movement, limiting vision, and convincing you that the boundaries of your life are far closer than they actually are. You don't see the chains because they are not physical. They are mental, emotional, and often inherited. But their effect is just as real as a locked cage. Every time you say no to an opportunity because you think you're not ready, every time you lower your dreams because you think they're impossible, every time you play it safe because you think you'll fail, those chains tighten. And with each tightening, your destiny slips further away. What most people don't realize is that destiny is not something waiting for you in the distance. It is something inside of you right now, waiting to be unlocked. It is a seed planted deep within, containing all the greatness, courage, and resilience you will ever need. But that seed can only grow if the soil is free from the weeds of limiting beliefs. If you keep feeding lies like, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, or people like me can't achieve that, then no matter how much potential is inside you, it will never flourish. Killing those beliefs is like pulling weeds out by the roots so that the seed of your destiny can finally breathe, take in light, and grow into what it was always meant to become. Potential is limitless, but it is unlocked only through action. And action is always controlled by belief. You act on what you believe about yourself and the world. If you believe you can, you try, you persist, you innovate, you find a way. If you believe you can't, you hesitate, you procrastinate, you quit before you even begin. It's not the lack of talent, resources, or opportunity that holds people back. It's the presence of beliefs that convince them those things don't matter because the outcome is predetermined. The truth is, the outcome is not predetermined, but your beliefs determine whether you will ever take the steps required to reach it. Killing limiting beliefs doesn't just remove mental blocks. It opens the floodgates for massive, unstoppable action. Think about how many lives have been transformed simply because someone refused to accept the beliefs handed to them. History is filled with men and women who were told their dreams were impossible, their visions were foolish, their efforts would fail, but they killed those beliefs and chose to create their own. The difference between them and those who stayed behind wasn't ability, it was belief. The same applies to you. You have within you a level of genius, creativity, strength, and passion that you may not even realize because it has been buried under years of conditioning. The voices of parents, teachers, peers, Society may have convinced you that you should aim lower, settle for less, stay in line, but none of those voices define you. The only voice that truly defines you is the one you allow to dominate your mind. Kill the voice of limitation, and you give power to the voice of destiny. Killing limiting beliefs is not a one-time act. It is a discipline. These beliefs are sneaky. They don't vanish overnight. They reappear in moments of fear, in moments of uncertainty, in moments of weakness. They whisper in the back of your mind, trying to lure you back into the cage. That's why you must be vigilant. Every time a limiting belief shows up, you must confront it, challenge it, and replace it with a liberating belief. If the thought says, I can't handle this, replace it with, I am stronger than this. If the thought says, I always fail, replace it with, every failure is feedback and I grow stronger each time. If the thought says, it's impossible, replace it with, it's inevitable if I commit. This constant replacement process builds mental strength the way lifting weights builds muscle. The more you practice, the more unshakable your mindset becomes. As you kill limiting beliefs, you begin to notice something extraordinary happening. You start living bigger. You start making decisions based on possibility instead of fear. You start taking risks that once seemed too overwhelming. You start saying yes to opportunities instead of talking yourself out of them. And with every step forward, you discover new levels of ability, courage, and resilience. You realize that the limits you once thought were real were nothing but illusions created in your mind. Each breakthrough creates momentum, and that momentum builds until you are living at a level you once thought was out of reach. That is the process of unlocking potential. It is not about suddenly becoming someone else. It is about finally removing the beliefs that have been covering up who you truly are. Destiny is not reserved for the chosen few. It is available to everyone who is willing to confront the lies that have kept them small. The tragedy is that most people die with their music still inside them, not because they lacked the ability, but because they allowed limiting beliefs to suffocate their song. They lived their lives inside invisible walls, never realizing that the key to freedom was in their own hands all along. The key was the courage to question the beliefs that shaped them, to kill the lies, and to replace them with truths that empower. Once you understand this, you begin to see that the only thing standing between you and the life you were meant to live is the story you've been telling yourself. Change the story, and you change the outcome. The beauty of killing limiting beliefs is that it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone connected to you. When you rise, others rise with you. When you show your children, your family, your community that you refuse to live small, you give them permission to do the same. You become an example of possibility, a living reminder that destiny is available to anyone bold enough to claim it. Your courage to kill limiting beliefs doesn't just unlock your own potential, it unlocks the potential of those around you. It creates a ripple effect that can change generations. The journey of life is not about avoiding pain, avoiding struggle, or avoiding failure. It is about facing them with the belief that you are more powerful than any obstacle. Limiting beliefs rob you of that power. They blind you to your own strength. But once you kill them, you begin to see yourself clearly. You begin to recognize the warrior inside, the creator inside, the leader inside. And when that recognition happens, you step into your destiny with a certainty that nothing can shake. You no longer wonder if you're capable. You know you are. You no longer question if you deserve it. You know you do. You no longer ask if it's possible. You know it's inevitable. Unlocking your true potential, and destiny begins and ends with belief. Kill the lies, embrace the truth, and watch as the doors of possibility swing open wider than you ever imagined.